Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we were wondering about how many seats there are in this workshop module. I can answer that at this point. The answer is 3. I went over to the VAB and checked, and yeah, we can fit 3 into this workshop. So that's absolutely noted. We can also bring, I believe, 2 in the Mark II lander can. So then in the EL survey station, I don't know how many can be seated in here, but there's definitely some. So we could bring more Kerbals over. We need to decide on what a quote-unquote standard number of Kerbals to transit is. And I'm currently thinking that that number is 5. I know for a fact we can fit 2 here, we can fit 3 here. So 5 seems like a decent number to have be our transit number. Now there's another thing that I do want to do here before we go, before we call it done, and that is I want to have junctions like these be able to be set up in locations like this. So I want to be able to build the junction here and then just plop it in right here. But I want to do that without constructing it in place, because we know that can create problems. So we need to figure out a solution for that. But I feel like that's a later problem. That's not a right now problem. So for the moment, I think we want to start getting ourselves 5 Kerbals on the way over. So in order for that to be a thing, we're going to need to deliver them in a way where they can be driven over from their landing site, which will probably be a little ways away. And we also need to have enough life support to get them there. Unless we want to just say there's no life support, we put them in hibernation, and then we rehydrate them when they get there. But that's a terrible idea. I don't like that idea. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go for probably a pomegranate re-entry module here, and that seats 3 at this point. So then we need to seat 2 additional, which would be like a Mark II lander can seats how many? Yeah, it seats 2. This is not the right size. I would definitely prefer to have a different size. So let's get rid of that, and we could bring this as a... Let's see, where are we? I'm trying to go here. We could bring, like, the survey station. How many does this seat? Crew capacity of 4. Okay. So we've got 2 open crew capacity there. We've got 2 additional open crew capacity above our life support module. Then we've got 3 crew capacity open. So we currently have 7 crew capacity open. And once we finish our habitation module, we're going to have a lot more. But I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to need to build ourselves another food production module. Most likely, another garden module. So we'll see, but for now, that's reasonably fine. Now this crew cabin here, this seats 2. So if we were to bring this in like this, that would be fine. But then what we could do is we could put in wheels on this that would be intended to go in like this, except we need to lower them down a bit more, right? But we can do something kind of like that, although I think we'd want this to be in mirror symmetry. Oh, that's very awkward the way it wants to do that. Okay, we'll turn off the symmetry and we'll just put this in like this. But we are going to need to have like some struts here. So we're going to just put in some modular girder segments, with the idea being that they're going to be rotated like this. And we're going to need to, like, clip them out of here, because they're kind of clipped in right now. That's understood. I do want snapping to be on here, but we're just going to have to eyeball this. Okay. Yeah, right about there or so. Okay, so now let's go ahead and... I'm just looking at the angling that we've got here. It's not perfect, that's for sure. Well, I don't know that it's going to be perfect. We may just have to say it's close enough. So this is going to go about here. We're going to need to turn off the snapping and have it be a bit more like this. Okay, there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually remove these, and I'm going to place them down over here. Because this is just wrong. We need to have snapping on, and then that's going to end up going there, and then going there for now. And with snapping on, we can then snap this into position out over here. And move it up to be, like, as up as it can go. And that gives us better angling. Okay, so something along the lines of that. Then we want to start putting these Rove Maxes on. So we'd have, like, one there, but that's definitely facing the wrong direction. It would end up being more like... Okay, I can't find the correct rotation. There we go. More like that. Fantastic. And then we'd put another one right here, and then we'd put one over here, and these are probably going to require some inversion. We'll take a look at that in a moment. So it'll end up being something kind of like that. Okay. Then we'd need to deliver this thing, and it would have to be in the correct orientation. So we would have to have the parachutes be up top here, and I don't really love the window angling that we've got going on here, but I don't know that there's too much we can really do about that at this point. We could, I suppose, rotate this guy, but that's... We'd have to detach this, then rotate this, then reattach this, and then the whole thing is off, right? I don't love that. So let's just keep it like this. This will be fine. This will be a little offset. I don't mind. It's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drogue chute or two. I think I'm going to put a drogue chute here, and then a drogue chute here. And then I'm going to put a main chute here, and a main chute here. I don't know if we're actually able to exit this as of right now. That's something we need to test. Is this blocking our exit? Because this is where the crew hatch is. We'll need to test that. We'll need to test our landing on this. So let's go ahead and put this out on the pad. And we're not going to have all that much in terms of, well, a lot of things here. For the time being, this will do. We are going to need some form of life support on this, obviously. So that's going to be a thing that we need. Okay, so let's get this on the pad. And what we wanted to test is, can we EVA? Yes, we can EVA. Okay. That's good. So that's absolutely fantastic. Now we need to check our wheels. They're all going the same direction. Okay, the turning is a little off, but that's easy enough to fix. As long as the wheels are all going the same direction, that's good enough. So we'll put this back in vehicle assembly, and we're going to have 5 Kerbals in this. And we don't have enough Kerbals. So we're going to need to hire another Kerbal. That's absolutely understood. So that's fine. So with 5 Kerbals in this, we are going to need some amount of life support, right? So first things first, we're going to go for, let's see, that's a waste container there, and that can contain carbon dioxide, waste, and wastewater. That's fine. So I'm going to put a waste container up here, like that. And then in the back, I'm going to put in a water container, although this is going to be a 1.25 meter. And then I'm going to put in a, not a supplies container. I'm going to put in a food container back here. And then I'm going to put in an oxygen container, which will be like that. So we've got our water, we've got our food, we've got our oxygen. Then we're going to need some converters. So we're going to need a carbon extractor here. That's a little on the large side. Let's go to a 1.25 meter carbon extractor. And then a water purifier. We should be net neutral on our water. We'll need some power on this, of course, and I'm going to put in a small-ish battery up here. Like, 1K is a little too much, I feel like. But we could put a 1K back here. I have no idea how this is going to go as far as the landing on this goes. We'll see what the mass distribution on that is like. We'll probably have to move these chutes. That's absolutely okay. We might even need more chutes. So that's fine for the moment. So we'll be net neutral on our carbon and on our water, most likely. We're going to want to have at least some retractable photovoltaic panels. So I'm going to put one on each of these sides. In fact, we might go with two, like that. Something along those lines. And I think we'll probably want to move these wheels back as far as we can. So it'll be something kind of like that. There we go. Something like this. That'll put us in a slightly better position there. And then as far as the chutes go, we're definitely going to want to move these somewhat. So I'm going to put a radial mount drogue chute there. I'm going to put an extra parachute here and here. There's a lot of chutes, and that's probably enough. Oh, we do not need these chutes on the bottom. In fact, it's very bad to have these chutes on the bottom. Let's not do that. Okay. Something more like this. Oh, those windows being offset makes me so angry. Okay. So this is going to be our crew delivery system, right? And at this point, we've got our water. The main question is this enough food to last us? Let's see how long this is going to last us. We're going to have 5 Kerbals. We have 240 total food in here. The question is, how much food do these Kerbals eat per day? I'm going to put this on the pad. We're going to EVA. We know that they EVA with 24 hours worth of life support. Well, actually, it's 6 hours worth of life support. It's 1 day. 1 day in KSP is 6 hours. Okay, so we're going to have Valentina EVA here, and she brings with her 0.37 food. Okay, time to break out the calculator. Point times 5 means that we're going to have 1.85 food consumption per day. If we have 240 food divided by 1.85, that gives us 129 days of food. That is definitely not enough food. So let's pull this back. We're going to need more food. I'm thinking about some underslung food canisters here. So that's going to go like right down here in theory. So that's going to be, we want to at least double this amount of food, and 0.75 meter is a bit small. I'm thinking if we did this and this, I want to move these out a little bit. So like one here, something like that. And then we can do another set of them down here, and then we'll just snap those into position. So something like that. We could even fit an additional third one in like this. So these are 130 each. Each of these are going to give us, if I clear this, 130 divided by 1.85. Each one of these is slightly over 70 days. So this is 210 days of food. This is 420 total days of food. And then this, of course, is going to give us an additional 240. So that's going to be, hang on, 660 days. Okay. That's potentially a bit tight, but it's doable. Now, I want to make sure that these are relatively lined up. So I'm just going to snap them into position. And there we go. Something kind of like that. Now, we might be able to move these guys down by 1, like this, and fit something here. If we were to put another food hex can here, this would buy us another 70 days if we did that. Okay, what's our center of mass here? Noted. So our center of mass is going to be slightly offset, which we're not terribly surprised about, to be honest. But let's go ahead and save that for the moment, and we need to run a quick re-entry test. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a TD12 decoupler right there, and we're going to strap on a really, really, really basic interplanetary transit stage. That's going to be just this, and we're going to put in a... we could go with a poodle. A poodle is fine. So we can go ahead and disable the shroud and go ahead and make it a single compact. Something like this. And you can see we're definitely a little offset here. The gimbal should fix that in theory. And this doesn't have a reaction wheel in it, so we're going to need to put a reaction wheel in here at some point. I'm going to put it up here at the very top, and that is under command and control, a small inline reaction wheel. It's not a lot of reaction wheel, but we're used to that. So that's relatively fine. At this point, we need to test out how this is going to do in its landing process. So let's go ahead and save this, put this on the pad. This is, of course, going to be simulated at this time. And the main concern at this point is that we land slowly enough that we do not break the wheels, and that we land in an orientation that is favorable to driving. That is to say, wheels down. That's what we need to test at this point. That's why our parachutes are all on our dorsal side here. So with all of our chutes here, the idea is that that will pull us around and ensure that the wheels are facing down. In theory, that should work. So let's just put this in orbit around Duna at this point. And we'll run a quick test. So 0, set orbit. And how much delta V is this right now? I mean, it's going to be enough to deorbit for sure. That's 634. Okay, so let's take this over to orbital retrograde, and wow, this is actually very rapid to turn. Getting these solar panels extended, and we're going to need to start our carbon extractor here, and we're going to need to start a water purifier. I'm not concerned about anything except for the food, although at this point, our food is 1153. What's our total amount here? 1153 divided by 1.85 is 623.24 days. So that basically means that we want to launch in a good transfer window. Because we do have a limited quantity of food. So there is that. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to deorbit us. We don't care about where we land. We just want to land for the moment. Where are we at for our periapsis? Okay, that's good enough. Let's go ahead and decouple this guy. And we're going to position ourselves at surface velocity minus, I think. Or actually, we need to be at a radial position, don't we? Radial plus or radial minus? Basically radial plus, although we need to roll a little bit. Because we want to be coming down like this, right? So let's warp on forward until we get into position here. And we're going to continue to hold radial plus for the time being. But we're not in the atmosphere yet, so we just got to warp forward until we get there. And this is going to be a quite realistic re-entry test here. But the real question is just, how's the parachute placement, right? We really don't need the drogue chutes, but it's fine. Okay, I'm going to retract the solar panels as we're entering the atmosphere, and they could theoretically get destroyed. I don't think they will. We've not had issues with that, but we're going to retract that, and we should probably have an antenna on this thing, now that I think about it. But okay, there we go. So we should be definitely, yeah, we're losing speed at this point. We're in maximal drag configuration at this point. Let's just bring this guy right on down. So we don't actually want to activate this. What we do want to do is slow down enough, hopefully through drag, that we're able to activate these chutes. Now the drogues may need to be activated first. We could move them out into their own category here. Where's the second drogue chute? Here it is. So we can move them out into their own category, just in case. We are slowing down, And the question is, are we going to slow down enough with the amount of drag we have here, which is actually pretty minimal. Unable to hold attitude. That's fine. As long as we slow down enough, it's not a big deal. We're moving pretty quick right now, and we're pretty low. However, these chutes are available. I'm coming out of physics warp here because I'm going to make the drogues deploy much earlier, but I do want the mains to deploy quite late. As we can see, it looks like we're going to be safe as far as the drag goes. Yeah, no problem there. So the chutes are, at this point, deploying. There's the drogues, slowing us down nicely. Now, the mains are going to be much lower, but look at that orientation already from the drogues. That's very solid. The mains are going to deploy now. And that puts us in a pretty good position to land in theory. Our overall surface velocity is a bit on the high side, but we are coming down in this kind of mountainous area. And we'll see how 16 meters per second goes here. This is simulated, so we'll find out. That was quite a bounce. And the bounce put us in a bad orientation here. So there's that. There's not very much that we can do about this orientation either. Gravity is too high here for us to be able to flip this, so we don't have any sort of a, flipping mechanism. We are... Actually, I just realized I have unbreakable joints and no crash damage on. This test is kind of invalid. Because I don't know if any of these parts should have broken, but we have unbreakable joints and no crash damage on because we were at the base. And that does invalidate this test. We got to pull this back. That is, of course, unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. I meant to pull it back to the launch, actually. But yeah, this is fine. We'll just rerun the test. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. We'll put ourselves in orbit again. And we'll run it this time without unbreakable joints and no crash damage on, because I don't know that those parts would have survived at that impact speed. We bounced pretty heavily, to be sure. And it's very possible that we should have had explosions there. So we need to turn these off, and we're just going to set our orbit around Duna again, and we'll rerun this test really, really fast. Okay, let's position ourselves on orbital retrograde. And let's bring this down a little bit more cautiously this time. So I'm just going to set our apoapsis to about 20 kilometers. This is a very cautious landing. Actually, no. We know that we're going to burn this quite heavily in reality. We're going to be moving at like 400 meters per second, I think, when we enter the atmosphere. I'm going to try to make that fairly realistic to our actual re-entry profile. That'll also put us down not over those mountains, which is nice. Okay, so somewhere around here. Now I'm going to jettison this. There we go. And we're going to do that. Now, I did like the drogues opening high and the mains opening low. So let's do that, and let's bring ourselves back over to radial out. Rotate ourselves around. Ooh, that's very peppy when we're in physics warp. Okay, somewhere around there. And let's bring this in. So we're building up vertical speed at this time. And that's absolutely understood. We're just going to bring this down as much as we can. So I do want to get the drogues down over here. And let's see if we survive this one. This will also bring us down, I think, a little faster. I just want to double check that I did turn off unbreakable joints and no crash damage. Yes, we need to know that this is going to be a safe landing. Okay, there's our attitude loss. That's fine. Oh, this is actually incorrect here. It doesn't matter. Let's get that chute out. Let's get this chute out. Okay. It's absolutely fine. All of our chutes are active at this point. So that pulls us around, and our mains are out. Our mains will deploy now. And this is a much more realistic landing in terms of biome as well, so that looks good. So we're down to about 14 meters per second. This is a little bit lower in altitude than our previous landing location was, so there's a little bit more air here. Okay, so our problem right now is that our center of pull is a little bit off, and that causes our back end to be heavier than our front end. So that's absolutely understood. That is a problem that we need to solve. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put 2 drogues in the back end. So I'm going to have this drogue be out over here, and I'm going to grab a second drogue, and that's going to go right up over here, like that. That'll give us more lift in the back end, and hopefully we'll be about right. Now, I do want to set these drogues here, so we don't have to do that every time. But we don't need to change the actual staging. We know that that's fine. This staging can go here, and this is okay for now. Okay, we'll need to test that, but that is something for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Rornaz, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. It was a very good sign that nothing blew up. That's for sure.